Jesse Brooks had always felt most alive under the blinding lights of a sold-out arena. At 32, he was America's sweetheart of country music, a rugged voice, whiskey-warm smile, and a reputation for heartbreak songs that made even the toughest cowboys tear up. But when the encore faded and the crowd drifted away, Jesse's hotel rooms always felt too quiet, too clean, too empty. Tonight, after wrapping up his final show in Nashville, Jesse stepped outside the back entrance, guitar case in hand, desperate for fresh air that didn't taste like cheap cologne and neon lights. His boots scraped the gravel behind the arena, the muffled sound of a distant train echoing in the Tennessee night. That's when he saw her, a woman with dark chestnut hair tied up in a loose ponytail, sitting on the back bumper of an old Ford pickup truck. She wore a faded denim jacket and scuffed cowboy boots that looked like they'd seen more real dust than Jesse's ever had. She had a notebook open on her lap, a pencil tapping against her lips as if she was lost somewhere far away. Their eyes met, green on blue, and for a second, Jesse forgot who he was supposed to be. "Hey there," he called out, voice warm but cautious. "You waiting for someone?" The woman startled, snapping the notebook shut so fast he almost laughed. "Sorry, didn't mean to trespass. I'm just thinking." Jesse stepped closer, leaning against the tailgate like they'd known each other for years. "What's your name?" She hesitated. Savannah Cole. Pretty name, he thought. It tasted like the South, like wildflowers and stubborn dreams. "You from around here?" Jesse asked, feeling foolish the moment it slipped out. Of course she was. Who else sat behind arenas on an old truck at midnight? "Grew up here," Savannah said, shrugging. "But I've been gone a long time. Needed to come back. You know how that is." He did. Maybe too well. They talked until the night crept toward dawn, words unraveling the tension that Jesse usually drowned in whiskey and songs. Savannah told him about her grandmother's farm outside Franklin, about the dusty notebooks she'd filled with lyrics she never showed anyone. "You write?" Jesse asked, eyebrows raised. "Songs. Not really songs. Just lines that won't leave me alone." He wanted to read every one of them, but before he could ask, Savannah pushed herself off the bumper, her boots crunching the gravel. "I should go. It's late." "Savannah, wait." Jesse's hand brushed hers, rough calluses meeting ink-stained fingers. "Can I see you again?" She gave him a half-smile, one corner of her mouth twitching like she was fighting herself. "You're Jesse Brooks. You can see anyone you want." "That's the thing," Jesse murmured. "I don't want just anyone." 2 days later, Savannah found herself sitting cross-legged on a wooden floor in Jesse's rented cabin. He'd invited her to help him write, promising her they'd just mess around with words. But every verse they scribbled brought them closer, laughter echoing off cedar walls, the scent of old coffee and pine needles thick around them. Jesse watched her as she chewed on her pencil, eyes narrowed in thought. There was something about Savannah. She didn't care who he was on stage. She asked him about Jesse, not Jesse Brooks. "You ever regret it?" Savannah asked, surprising him. "All this fame." He leaned back, strumming a chord on his battered guitar. "Sometimes, but I think I'd regret not singing more." She nodded, biting her lip. "Good answer." When the rain came that night, they stayed up on the porch, lightning flashing over the hills. Jesse played her scraps of melodies, his voice raw and true, and Savannah read him lines from her notebook, words about leaving and staying, and loving someone who makes you want to stay. And when the thunder rolled too close, Jesse's fingers brushed Savannah's cheek, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "You feel it too, don't you?" he whispered. Savannah didn't answer. She didn't have to. The days that followed felt like a secret, they both craved to keep. Jesse canceled interviews, turned down after-parties, and told his manager, Kyle, that he needed creative space. In truth, he just wanted Savannah close enough to remind him that music didn't have to come from pain alone. It could come from hope too. They'd meet at the old barn on her grandmother's land, tucked behind rows of white oaks and weeping willows. Jesse would pull up in his black Silverado, guitar case on the passenger seat, his boots caked with red clay. Savannah would already be inside, windows open to let the dusk breeze stir the dust motes like tiny stars. They'd write on old crates and broken stools, their laughter blending with the cicadas' hum. But as the songs took shape, so did something deeper, a feeling that settled under their skin, that tugged at Jesse when Savannah brushed past him, when her laugh made the old barn feel alive again. One night, after a melody turned into a soft, unfinished chorus, Jesse found Savannah sitting on the hood of his truck, staring up at the moon. Her notebook was open beside her, pages fluttering like restless wings. "What you writing?" he asked, sliding up next to her. Savannah hesitated, then handed him the page. He traced the words with his thumb. "Don't promise me forever, if forever's just a line. But promise me tomorrow, and maybe I'll call it mine." Jesse let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "You should be the one on that stage, not me." Savannah shook her head. "I don't want the stage. I want this. Words that belong to me. Nights like this." Jesse's eyes found hers, soft but burning. "And what if I want nights like this too? Every night?" She looked away, fighting a smile that couldn't quite hide the fear behind it. "Then don't break it, Jesse. Don't make me another verse in your heartbreak song." They spent hours in that barn, hours that turned into weeks. And with each day, Jesse felt a weight lift off his chest, as if every line they wrote was a stitch closing an old wound. But he knew it couldn't last forever. Fame never did. One afternoon, Savannah found herself in town, picking up groceries for her grandmother. She didn't notice the camera flashes at first, too lost in thought. But by the time she stepped back into the sunlight, they were waiting. Local paparazzi, gossip bloggers, and curious fans who'd sniffed out the truth. Jesse Brooks wasn't holed up in Nashville working on an album. He was holed up with her. "Savannah, are you dating Jesse Brooks?" one reporter yelled, shoving a phone in her face. "Is it true you're writing his next record? Are you the reason he's canceling shows?" Savannah's heart pounded. She pushed past them, keys rattling in her hands as she fumbled to unlock her truck. When she got home, her phone was already blowing up. Messages from numbers she didn't recognize. A voicemail from her old college roommate asking if the tabloids were true. That night, when Jesse showed up at her porch with a six-pack and that crooked smile, Savannah didn't answer the door at first. He knocked again, softer this time. "Savannah, open up. Please." When she finally did, her eyes were red-rimmed. She stood barefoot, arms crossed over her chest like she was holding herself together. "They know, Jesse. They know about me." He stepped forward, reaching for her, but she flinched away. It cut deeper than any critic ever could. Hey, I'll fix this. I'll talk to Kyle. Shut them down." "You can't shut them down," she snapped. "You can't protect me from your world, Jesse. I didn't sign up for cameras and rumors, and—" She stopped, voice cracking. Jesse ran a hand through his hair, the weight of his choices pressing on his shoulders. "Then what do you want, Savannah? Tell me. I'll do it." She looked at him, eyes shining with something that wasn't anger, but wasn't forgiveness either. "I want you to remember who you are without all this," she whispered. "And I need to remember who I am too." For days, Jesse didn't hear from her. He threw himself back into rehearsals, back into half-finished songs that suddenly sounded empty. He sat with his band in the studio, trying to summon the same raw magic he'd found in that barn. But every note felt hollow. Late one night, he sat alone on the floor of his living room, guitar across his lap, a single light burning above him. His phone buzzed on the table. Another text from Kyle about an upcoming TV appearance. He ignored it. He started strumming Savannah's words instead, the lines she'd scribbled in her notebook that first night. Don't promise me forever, if forever's just a line. His voice cracked on the last note. He missed her laugh. He missed the way she challenged him to write the truth, not just what people wanted to hear. He missed the way she looked at him like he wasn't just Jesse Brooks, the country star. He was Jesse, the boy who never learned how to stay. 2 weeks passed before he finally gathered the nerve to drive out to her grandmother's farm again. The night was cool and clear, the fields painted silver by moonlight. He parked under the same old oak, boots crunching on the gravel as he approached the house. Savannah was on the porch, wrapped in a faded quilt, her notebook balanced on her knees. "You're not supposed to be here," she said softly when she saw him. "Yeah, well, I've never been good at doing what I'm supposed to do." She almost smiled, almost. Jesse sank onto the porch steps below her, looking up like she was the only star in the sky worth chasing. "Savannah, I'm sorry." She didn't say anything, so he kept going, words tumbling out like half-finished verses. "I know I messed up. I should have protected you. But I got scared. Scared that if people knew about you, they'd ruin you the way they ruin everything good in my life." Savannah's eyes shimmered, her hands trembling on the notebook. "I don't want to be a secret, Jesse, or a headline, or a heartbreak song." "I know," he said, voice breaking. "You're not. You're the reason I want to write something that doesn't end in heartbreak. You're the reason I believe I can." She looked down at him, and this time, when he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. A week after that night on Savannah's porch, Jesse was back on the road. The press had caught wind that he'd disappeared for a few days, and rumors swirled. Was Jesse Brooks retiring? Was he fighting with his label? Was there a mystery woman pulling him away from his career? Savannah didn't care about the headlines anymore. She'd made peace with one truth. Jesse had to choose this for himself. She wasn't going to fight his world. She was going to watch what he did with it. When Jesse asked her to join him in Austin for his biggest show of the year, she hesitated. Crowds, cameras, backstage chaos. But then he'd sent her a single line in a text. "It's not my world if you're not in it." So she packed her bag, grabbed her notebook, and told her grandmother she'd be back in a few days, maybe. Backstage at the arena was a blur of cables, booming speakers, and the hum of a crowd hungry for Jesse's music. Savannah stood in the wings, her heart pounding every time his voice drifted down the hallway during sound check. He'd wink at her when he caught her watching, a flicker of the boy she'd found behind an arena months ago. His manager, Kyle, pulled Jesse aside before the show, voice low but sharp. "This girl, she's a liability. If the tabloids find out she's traveling with you, they'll twist it. They'll say she's using you." Jesse's jaw tightened. They can say whatever the hell they want. Kyle looked past Jesse at Savannah, who stood hugging her notebook to her chest. "You sure about her?" Jesse didn't hesitate. "I've never been more sure about anything." When the lights dimmed and the roar of thousands washed over him, Jesse walked out on stage with his old acoustic in hand, and Savannah's words scribbled on a scrap of paper tucked in his shirt pocket like a talisman. Halfway through the show, after the hits and the anthems, Jesse did something he'd never done before. He pulled up a single stool under the spotlight, guitar slung low, mic stand lowered to match the hush in his voice. "I want to play y'all something special tonight," he said, scanning the faces in the dark, hoping she could hear him from the wings. "It's not on any record. Not yet, anyway." He strummed the first gentle chords, his voice soft and raw. Don't promise me forever, if forever's just a line, but promise me tomorrow, and maybe I'll call it mine. The arena went still, thousands of people leaning in, as if the world outside those walls had disappeared. Savannah pressed a hand over her mouth, tears slipping down her cheeks. She'd given him those words she'd been too scared to sing out loud. Now they belonged to the world, but they still belonged to her too. When Jesse walked off stage after the encore, sweat-soaked and breathless, Savannah was waiting just beyond the lights. He didn't say a word. He just pulled her into his arms, and the roar of the crowd was replaced by the thunder of her heartbeat against his chest. They drove back to Nashville that night, the road stretching out before them like a promise. Savannah dozed off with her head on Jesse's shoulder while he hummed the new song under his breath. He felt whole in a way he'd never felt, not from gold records, not from sold-out shows, but from this quiet, stubborn love that refused to fit into a headline. But fame is a storm that never sleeps. By morning, the video of Jesse's new song had gone viral. Fans wanted to know who the girl was behind the lyrics. Rumors twisted like barbed wire. People said Savannah was a gold digger, an opportunist, a distraction that could ruin Jesse's career. She watched the noise grow like wildfire, her phone buzzing with strangers' judgments. She didn't cry, not this time. She just turned to Jesse, who sat at the edge of the bed, eyes dark with worry. "I can't be the reason you lose everything," Savannah whispered. "I won't." Jesse cupped her face in his hands, thumb brushing a tear she didn't realize had fallen. "Savannah, listen to me. I've spent my whole damn life singing about heartbreak. Maybe it's time I sing about something worth fighting for." "But what if they don't let you?" she asked. "Then we make our own stage." A week later, Jesse made the riskiest move of his career. He announced a surprise hometown show. Free. No sponsors, no label. Just him, his guitar, and Savannah standing beside him under strings of warm porch lights in the middle of the farm where she grew up. Fans came in droves, lining up along the dirt road. Tailgates dropped open. Kids dancing barefoot in the grass. It wasn't about record sales that night. It was about reclaiming the music that had brought him to Savannah in the first place. Before he stepped up to the microphone, Jesse turned to Savannah, his fingers threading through hers. "Scared?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not if you're with me." They sang the new song together for the first time. Savannah's voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with every word. The crowd didn't scream or gossip. They just listened. Really listened. When the final chord faded into the Tennessee night, Jesse kissed her in front of everyone, no secret left to hide. The applause that followed wasn't just for the music. It was for the promise that love, real love, could be bigger than any stage. After the crowd drifted home, Jesse and Savannah sat on the porch swing of her grandmother's farmhouse, an old lantern flickering beside them. They talked about the songs they'd still write, the places they'd still go. No cameras, no rumors, just two souls stubborn enough to believe they could build forever one tomorrow at a time. "Do you ever regret it?" Savannah asked softly, echoing that first night. Jesse leaned his forehead against hers, his smile gentle and sure. "Never. I'd choose this storm 1,000 times over, as long as you're the calm inside it." Savannah laughed, pressing her notebook into his chest. "Then here's our next song." He opened the cover, pages filled with lines about hope and second chances. And as he read, the crickets sang. The night wrapped around them like an old country melody, and somewhere deep inside, Jesse Brooks knew. The best love songs aren't the ones that end in heartbreak. They're the ones that never really end at all. Summer faded into fall, and the rumor mills churned as always, but Jesse and Savannah built something no headline could break. They split their time between the hush of her grandmother's farm and the roar of Jesse's tour bus, two worlds they chose to stitch together line by line, song by song. Nashville took notice too. Critics praised Jesse's new single, Tomorrow, calling it raw and real, a turning point for an artist once known only for heartbreak ballads. But Jesse didn't care about the charts this time. He cared about the one person in the crowd whose eyes never lied to him. One crisp October evening, after a small charity show in Franklin, Jesse pulled Savannah aside before the last encore. They stood backstage, string lights casting gold halos around them, distant cheers echoing through the barn-turned venue. "You got one more in you," Savannah teased, brushing sawdust off his worn denim shirt. "Always," Jesse said. He slipped something small into her hand, a silver locket, simple but warm, from his pocket. Inside was a folded scrap of notebook paper. Savannah opened it, breath-catching when she read the words she'd scribbled months ago behind an arena. "Don't promise me forever, if forever's just a line." She looked up at him, heart pounding the same way it had the night they met. "Jesse, I'm not promising forever, Save," he interrupted gently, voice steady over the muffled music. "I'm promising tomorrow, and the next one, and the one after that, as many as you'll let me." The roar of the crowd rose, but for a moment it was just them, two people choosing each other again and again, in a world that always tries to pull people apart. Savannah slipped the locket around her neck. "Then sing it with me." When they stepped out on stage together for that final encore, something felt different. The fans didn't just see Jesse Brooks, country's golden boy, or Savannah Cole, the girl from nowhere. They saw two hearts wide open, beating together in the same fragile, beautiful rhythm. They sang the song that had brought them here, the one about tomorrow. But this time, Savannah's voice carried clear as church bells, rising above the hush of a crowd that knew they were witnessing something real. As the last chord rang out, Jesse took her hand, holding it high like a promise the world could not break. No matter what the gossip blogs wrote tomorrow, no matter how loud the headlines shouted, this was theirs. Back on the farm that night, the fire crackled low while Jesse strummed his guitar under the wide-open Tennessee sky. Savannah curled up beside him, a notebook balanced on her knees. "Tell me something," she murmured, voice barely louder than the crackle of the flames. "Do you still feel alone after the crowd leaves?" Jesse turned, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Not anymore. You're my encore, Save. Every night." She laughed, tearing out a fresh page, scribbling a line that would one day be a chorus sung by thousands. But tonight it was just theirs. Jesse knew he'd still have bad days. The cameras would come knocking, the rumors would twist and turn, but in the hush of that porch swing, in the warmth of Savannah's arms, he'd learned the truth he'd searched for his whole life. Love isn't about grand gestures or perfect promises. It's about showing up, over and over again, choosing the same imperfect, beautiful heart each morning, and making music out of the mess. They didn't know where tomorrow would lead. Maybe another record, maybe another farm show under fairy lights strung through old oak trees. But they did know this. No matter what the world threw at them, they'd keep writing the verses no one else could touch. So here's what you take away from Jesse Brooks and Savannah Cole. Sometimes, the biggest stages aren't in sold-out arenas, but in the quiet moments when you're brave enough to share your truth with someone who sees you, really sees you. And love, real love, doesn't promise a perfect forever. It promises 1,000 imperfect tomorrows worth fighting for. So if you've got someone who makes your soul feel like a song, hold them close. Write your verses together, and when the lights fade and the world falls quiet, may you always hear your hearts singing each other's names in the dark. Because the best love stories don't end when the credits roll. They live on in every tomorrow you choose to keep writing together. If you felt your heart swell for Jesse and Savannah, just wait. We have more stories that will make you believe in second chances, stubborn hope, and the kind of love that turns storms into lullabies. Don't forget to hit play on the next video, because your next tomorrow could be just one song away.